A WWE star is not being re-signed by the company, and we're going to talk about that plus so much more. It's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. Yes. All right, guys. So I want to kick things off with Dakota Kai. She was streaming live on Twitch, and it was very interesting that she pointed this out because she was talking a little bit about some stuff in the WWE, and she was talking about how she's never had a opportunity as a singles competitor on a main roster PLE, and man, like she's like pretty bummed about this, and she's asking for an opportunity. She specifically says, give me an opportunity, please, anything. I'm crying. I'm crying because I'm so emotional about this. LOL. And then she starts to say it's her allergies and whatnot. But seriously, come on now, get behind me, bro. And normally this wouldn't be a topic in general, but it is interesting because WWE stars have been given the approval to go live on Twitch, which back in the old regime, back in the old days, like WWE stars were not able to do this kind of thing. And I think some people are not taking this as seriously as they should. I mean, realistically, if a WWE star is publicly coming out and talking about having or wanting that opportunity, that's not necessarily a good thing. And I'm not saying this to be critical of WWE, but at the same time, too, Dakota Kai is somebody who had a really good run in NXT. She goes up to WWE, becomes part of Damage Control, and there's so much cool stuff that happens with that. And there very clearly is a storyline that is happening right now as it stands with Damage Control. And obviously, Io Sky keeps talking about, some sort of change is needed. I don't know if this is going to lead to Dakota Kai splitting from them, and then that's how they do this. But I do want to say Dakota Kai is a hell of a talent. I always go back and remember, her run in NXT, especially when she turned heel at War Games. Like, those are the types of things that really generate emotion. They generate reaction. This is a girl that is like incredibly talented inside the ring. Even on the mic, I feel like when she's comfortable, she's good. I want to see her have more opportunities. And if you guys watch my channel, one of the biggest things I talk about is having fresh faces in the women's division. And I feel like what often happens is like it's Becky and Charlotte and Bayley and for a long time it was Sasha as well. But like it's always the same people holding the titles. And I personally like when we see new people holding the titles. So for example, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Io Sky, right? Like, when are we going to see a new, fresh crop of talent hold those titles? And, I realize that WWE has some really major storylines that are happening as it stands, but I do kind of want to point this out. If you have a mid-card championship for the women, Dakota Kai is right there. And I just think that has to be discussed. I want to turn our attention to Shinsuke Nakamura. I want to give a huge shout out to Combat Sports Today on Twitter and social media because UFC Japan had announced some very interesting stuff. But there was a Road to UFC tournament, and now there is a fight that is happening at UFC 303 this upcoming Saturday. Tasiora. I am probably mispronouncing that. Unfortunately, that's just how it is sometimes. But he will have former MMA fighter, current WWE superstar, Shinsuke Nakamura in his corner. And for those who didn't know, Nakamura did do a couple different other ventures before pro wrestling. He competed on K1 Jungle Fight and Inoki Bomb Yay cards. Probably butchering that too, but hey, I want to give a shout out to CST, always keeping me in the loop when it comes to UFC and MMA information. Shinsuke Nakamura, former MMA star, current WWE star, in the corner of somebody who is making their debut in the UFC. It's interesting because I feel like we're starting to see more Japanese talent cross over into MMA. Shinsuke Nakamura is obviously a very big name in Japan, and of course he's made a huge name for himself in America because of his ties to the WWE. So with that being said, I'm pretty damn excited about this. If you guys didn't know, I am a huge MMA fan. I'm not like a super hardcore fan, but I tend to watch a lot of stuff. especially like global fights, like things that are happening outside of America. But of course, you know, when you combine pro wrestling and MMA and you see that crossover, that is a very cool thing. Shinsuke Nakamura being in the corner of someone is a very cool thing. And I'm curious, like, if UFC will use this as an opportunity to shout out Shinsuke Nakamura being from the WWE. You know, by the way, I will just say, like, Shinsuke is very highly regarded as a talent, and just sometimes I think WWE kind of drops the ball with him, and they don't really have it planned out for him. And I, obviously at this point he's a veteran and stuff, but man, like, you have this guy showing up in the corner of the UFC and he's not really doing anything on WWE television. So it does get a little bit disappointing. But you know what else is more disappointing? This is where the real criticism comes in. Dijak is leaving the WWE. And quite frankly, I'm actually bothered by this for a variety of reasons. But I want you guys to read his statement, so I'm going to read it to you. Dijak put out a tweet today at 10 a.m. He says, "Here's the truth. WWE never negotiated with me. We attempted to negotiate, and they stonewalled us. They never made me a single offer. And then they informed me that they would not renew my contract at the 11th hour. 2 months ago, I was in one of the best matches in NXT history and a top match of WrestleMania weekend. On that day, a top executive in WWE told me I was crushing it. I was slated to feud with the NXT title, but I got called up to Raw instead. I consistently outperformed everyone's expectations, especially throughout 2023 and early 2024. I never complained about anything or was difficult to work with. I tirelessly pitched ideas to anyone who would listen as recently as the day before I was notified. I never once missed a booking, and I was injured one time in 7 years for 3 months. I'm thankful, disappointed, but also excited. This has lit a fire under me to relentlessly prove to the world. All I ever wanted was a fair shot, and now I have the opportunity to go out and take it. That's enough talk. Now it's time to do or die, Jack. My last day under a WWE contract is June 28th, 2024, and you could book them at bookdiejack@gmail.com. Get ready to feast your fucking eyes." Guys, this is a no-brainer. You don't defend this type of shit. If you watch the WWE product and you see how great Carmelo has been on the main roster, and Lyra Valkyria and Braun Breaker, and you see these NXT talent getting called up and they're handled very well. You see Dijak get drafted to WWE Raw. Very exciting because of all the momentum and all the good things that he did in NXT, and he doesn't get utilized. Tell me how I'm supposed to feel about that. I mean, I don't know if it's Nick Khan or Triple H. I don't know if it's the higher brass. I don't know what it is. But to not even make an offer. This is not Dijak being like, "Hey, man, like, we negotiated and we just couldn't come to a deal." This was, we didn't make you an offer. And since he's been on the main roster, what did he get? A loss on WWE speed. I'm sorry. But for as good as WWE has been doing this year, and for as all the good things that they have done and all this great content that they're doing and all these amazing things, I just don't simply understand this. And I don't care if you label me a WWE hater, but this is the type of shit that makes me hate professional wrestling companies. Because we're not talking about a guy who is not utilized. We're not talking about a guy who's like not active. We're not talking about this guy makes waves on social media. He's become a very big hit on social media. But forget about that. On NXT television, he was a very big part of it. Like, I just don't understand this level of thinking. And to be honest with you, when I see somebody like this who is really talented and who's also presented as a big deal on TV, just for him to get drafted and nothing happen, nothing, not even a chance, and then you decide not to even offer him a contract, that doesn't make sense to me. And it will never make sense to me, because if you don't offer somebody a contract and you don't utilize them, you didn't have plans for him. And instead of putting him on the main roster, you could have just left him in NXT, let him become NXT champion. You know, like, you could have done so much more. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dijak is leaving the company. Whoever picks him up, good luck. You are going to kill it with him. This is a guy that could be a world champion anywhere. Really dumb decision by WWE, but what can you do?